All right. How you going, guys? My name's SuperCoach Pro. Welcome back to the channel. And a familiar face, we welcome back Steve from SDS SuperCoach. How you going, Steve?
Yeah, g'day, Brad. Pumped to be on here. Super happy to be on here. I'm sure this won't be the last video with us together. We've got a lot of content for the future. So, good to be on here, Brad. Thank you.
No worries. How about Thursday meeting at Whitten Oval? How did we go there? It was a bit interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. Disclaimer: if anyone lives in Footscray, we do apologise, but some of the things we're about to bring up, not too pretty on old Footscray. But yeah, so it was all in all, it was a really good meeting. Brad, I was going to walk to Brad, and then Brad was just driving around near where I parked my car, and he picked me up. We both realised our footies weren't pumped, so we had to go to Kmart and buy a footy pump. Well, buy a bike pump with some footy utensils so we can pump up our footy. And then, yeah, so we went back. Whitten Oval was shut. We went down to Yarraville Gardens, beautiful ground, not too many punters about. And so once we were done, we had a kick for about an hour, I'd say. Then we decided, you know what, let's get a coffee. Brad drove me into Footscray, the main area, and it was about, I don't know, what was it, 1:15 in the Arvo, 1:15, 2 o'clock in the Arvo, something like that. And we were just walking through, and just so many dodgy people about, indeed. So we walked into a couple of coffee shops. The first coffee shop in the corner, the glass was broken in the front door, so that's always a good start. Then we tried a couple of other coffee shops. The last one that we tried, everyone we walked in, me and Brad walked in, everyone just stared at us. And we were just like, yep, can we grab a coffee? And someone steps up, oh, we can't do it by card. I'm like, okay, cool, have a good one. Me and Brad both agreed, you know what, let's just go to Macca's and get a takeaway coffee in the drive-through and head back into his car. And had a chat. He drove me back to where I parked my car and we had a chat for 10-15 minutes, and there we go. That was a good meetup, all in all. No, it was good seeing you, mate.
Yeah, you too, mate. And we left with all our organs intact, which was nice out that part of the world.
Yeah, mate. I was glad I was next to you, mate. I didn't want to be walking alone in that situation.
Mate, 10 years of Muay Thai and boxing, and I was still a bit iffy about my surroundings. So that just shows you that no matter how good you think you're still a little bit wary about someone pulling out some strange weapon in the West in general. But let's not talk too much about the West, or else I might get unfired a bit. So we're doing mid-price madness for some of these players. We've been looking at quite a few that I think, some people have discussed, and then there's some odd few that you'd be like, this is random as hell. But I think the one that is really stirring the pot at the moment is Elliott Yeo for me. So same as the last time, we'll just go one for one. And Elliott Yeo is 28. We know his scoring history is pretty elite, actually. It's just more if his body can hold up. You can see on the screen here. Since 2017, he's been going pretty nuts. Those 3 seasons between 17 and 19, he's gone 102 to 107. But then you see in the last 3 years, his durability has been really pretty crap, to be honest. He's played 10 games, 12 games, and 5 games. I don't think he's even actually started preseason until end of January or early Feb, so that's a big concern. The only thing with these injury-prone players is if you're starting them, they're not really a risk, because the worst-case scenario, you're just burning a trade to get rid of them. But you don't really want to be bringing these guys in after round 2, because if they conk out at round 8, then you're burnt 2 trades for 1 player. So you're better starting off maybe one in each line of these injury-prone players personally. But I think for me, the thing that appeals is, apart from his midfield, he's only 28, so he's in the prime still. He's probably only got 1 or 2 years, to be honest, in the mids. But around him, who has he got? He's got really Tim Kelly, Gaff. I think Gaff's more wing. And then you got players like Jai Cully coming through the system. So Dom Sheed apparently as well. But I think I see really Yeo as the mainstay if they give him that role. And if they don't, they play him down back like they're saying he is. He's pretty good overhead mark, and we know what halfbacks are like for scoring in general. He's priced pretty decent too. as well at 337 in defence is pretty good. And if he does go mid and he gets DPP status, that's even better. So he's one to look out for, especially in the preseason. Probably his role probably doesn't really matter because he probably scores well either way. You're probably just not going to pick him if he has an injury after his training block starts, if that makes sense. So, it's not a question about his scoring. Like, it's just been pretty nuts, even averaging 80 the last 2 seasons before he got injured. So if he gets a 20-point difference, he's going to make you 150, 200K. And so the same thing as we were saying the other day, if, a player like him gets to, as you've seen at the start, he was 470 before round one, and you've got a fallen primo that's worth 50, 60 grand, you can always sideways him to someone's had a role change or something silly like that. And I think he's a stepping stone. I can't see him playing 22 games, hence why I'd only start him and not bring him in. What do you think about that one, Steve?
Yeah, I like Elliott Yeo because, there's only 2 places where he realistically could play, and that's right in the guts and off the half back line. I think it'd be a lot of an answer to a bit of an unknown question at the minute with these mid-price defenders at the minute. So if he can get a good role and be healthy throughout the preseason, he could be our answer for a lot of questions down back as a mid-pricer. You got Bose, couple of others like that. So if he can solidify himself, I think he's a very good option. Speaking of the West Coast Eagles, I've gone with a new recruit for my first player, and that is going to be Jade Hunt, who came down from Melbourne. I don't know what his contract exactly is. It might be a 4-year contract, but I could be very wrong. I think it's a 4-year contract. But it just makes me think as a recruit for West Coast, who are currently in a bit of a retooling phase, getting a lot more of these younger players in. It's very interesting to see why they picked out Jade Hunt. And that just makes me think that they could have some big plans for him. Now, I'm not saying big plans like inside midfield, but he could be used off that half back line or a wing. He didn't come there to be, playing the waffle realistically. So I think there's a chance. Witherden's not really best 22 in my books. Shannon Hearn's getting a bit older. If Elliott Yeo's used more of a midfield, there's a spot on the half back line for Jade Hunt to take advantage of. And if he's playing off that half back line, he's certainly more capable of being better than that 285K price tag. So he's just going to be an interesting watch for me. They recruited him for a reason. I think he's 27 years old, something like that. Was he in Melbourne's premiership team, Brad?
I'm pretty sure he was, yeah. I'm pretty
sure. Yeah, he was. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, might not have been. It doesn't matter. He's been a part of a good side. He was in Melbourne. He's now moved to West Coast looking for a bit of a more expanded role. And if he can nail down a position off that half back line, he could be a real smoky sort of option. Who's your second player, Brad?
I've got a couple of Richmonds in here, but I'm going Shaun Bolton, purely as a Tigers man. Sort of, it's easier to know, as you know, with your own sort of team that you follow, what their role would be and where they're scoring best. And that's Bolton's issue is we've played him so much forward over the last few seasons. I don't really need to look at footy wide to know why he scores poorly. It's normally because we chuck him, forward pocket to get some goals. But I think this year, Morris Rioli will really take another step. So I don't think he has to be up forward much. I mean, you've already got Lynch, Revolt, Cumberland come through as well. We don't have many smalls that are getting consistent games too. So Bolton might get pushed forward, but I think he's fourth best in line. I don't think they play Dusty in the guts as much. I think he's better off a half forward flank coming to the tail end of his career. So Bolton, for me, is one I'll be looking at pre-season. If he's about third or fourth CBA sort of player, which I think he will be in order, personally, would be something like Prestia, Taranto, Hopper, and then Bolton. I see as the outside because all those 3 players are pretty similar. So I think he has to play in the guts to really, give us a spark. I just can't see where he'd play forward or if he does, it wouldn't be for more than 25, 30% game time. It's just more last year, Dusty wasn't playing. Prestia was injured a fair bit too. So he shouldered the sole responsibility. I did VCAL, so my language is pretty limited. So I just think if he's the fourth in line, he doesn't get much of a tag. They might be trying to tag out players like Hopper, the extractor, more so than the actual outside runners. So I think he's a good shout. I think the only thing that bothers me with him is last season, I'm pretty sure he only scored about 8 tons out of 22 games, which isn't fantastic. His ceiling, he went under 63 times, which isn't bad. It's more I'd just like to see him ton up a little bit more to make him a real viable mid-pricer. I probably wouldn't be talking about him if he was a pure mid, but he's one that I'd look at. The last 3 seasons, he's been really consistent. Of course, I'm not in the right bit, but yeah, he's averaged 85 and 86 over the last 2-3 seasons now. So, yeah, I think he's a shout. Well, who's your next player?
Well, I mean, Shaun Bolton's certainly an exciting player to watch if owners certainly want to go that route. My next player is Will Setterfield, who is another player that's moved clubs, and he's gone to the Essendon Football Club. Now, we know that Essendon have been dying for a tall, big-bodied inside midfielder. That area of the midfield hasn't been corrected for quite some time, but I do think Will Setterfield is certainly capable of making a big impact inside that midfield for Essendon, who are under a new coach in Brad Scott. And look, he came from Carlton. He was playing more on the wing, half forward, wasn't really working for him. He wanted a new challenge, and Carlton were like, yep, go for it. He went to Essendon for a late pick, and I just think it's a real big opportunity for him because from what I've seen as a player, he's not really capable of playing in many other positions. Like wing, half forward, it's just not really his game. But inside midfield, he is good at playing inside midfield when given the opportunity. And at 348k as a price tag, he could be a secret stepping stone for your SuperCoach side. So I'd certainly keep an eye on Will Setterfield and seeing how he's tracking during preseason to see, in the Pracky game and the Amy series where he stands in that pecking order for Essendon in the midfield. Who would be your next player, mate?
I think we'd get a game at Essendon at the moment. But yeah, he's a good shout. I think he's probably third in line if you look at that midfield, maybe fourth. Like they've got Parrish, Merritt, Shield, and then Setterfield comes to mind. I mean, they'll probably give more game time to Hobbs, but Setterfield has to be in that mix, like you said. Like they brought him in for a reason, and he's definitely something different. He's definitely an inside mid, whereas the others are a little bit more outside. A little bit Parrish could play, but I think Setterfield definitely a shout at that price too. So no, I like that one. For mine, probably my least favourite out of these ones, just because he's not proven like the other scorers, is probably Hunter Clark for me. Probably concerning though, like he's started since 18 and his games have been 15, 14, 16, 13 and 8 over the last 5 seasons. So it doesn't say great things about his durability. But same thing, like there's mid-prices that are injured. If you're starting him, you're probably not worried about burning a trade. It's more if you have 2 or 3 in the same line, then you're really stuffing your side. The role we think's there at the halfback role. He's at a good price, 315k. It all really come down to, like we were saying in the other video too, is how many rookies are viable in that back line. But his scoring isn't fantastic. Like you can see there on the footy I just brought up now. His best season is 2020 at 81. So if he can do, show a little bit in the Pracky matches and we see some sort of 95 scoring in back-to-back games, I think a lot of people will jump on board for that price. He only needs to average, 15 and 20 points more than he did the season before, and I think he's very capable. I think I'll be thrown off him if he's not playing a halfback flank role, because that seems to be the seagull role like we saw last year with Aaron Hall and obviously Jake Lloyd for the last few years. If you're going to pick a backman, you're going to pick a flanker that's going to accumulate and the main distributor. So if he's that man, I'll look at it. So it also depends on Sinclair. If Sinclair moves to that midfield, then Hunter Clark really does have a spot for him to be the next Sinclair. So one to look at, just his scoring in general isn't great. You can see a lot of 70, 80s, a lot of mediocre sort of scoring. It is a new year for him. He does turn 24. it's sort of coming into your prime too. A lot of these recruiters, like we picked up Taranto and Hopper at 24 and 25. So it does say something about, when recruiters want to grab these guys. And I think it's probably one of his last chances in terms of if he doesn't get his body right again, who knows if he's on the chopping block by the end of the season if he doesn't really perform well. So I think it's a make it or break it year. I think he's got something to prove. It's just whether Ross sees him in best 22, which I think he does at this stage, to be honest. I'm hearing good things about him. So interesting one. The fact that he's born in 99 makes me feel old at 91, but that's beside the point. Who's your next player?
Yeah, so I think with Hunter Clark, I think he is best 22. I wonder if he'll be used a bit in the midfield. There's certainly some question marks, certainly on his not his job security, but the role that he's going to play. You just need him to stay healthy. But my next player is a ruckman. It's Tom De Conning. Now, look, this one's a bit of a deep cut because obviously there's only like 64 rucks you can pick from. Not many of them are mid-prices, so bit of a deep cut. But Tom De Conning is probably seen as one of the best ruck talents in the game. And I think if that's the case, he can make a name for himself and be the number one ruck. I know there's Mark Pitternet there, but if he's seen as one of the hot commodities in the ruck in the game, I think certainly there's a spot open for him to, and there's a chance that he can play as the main number one ruck. So he's just going to be an interesting watch. If Mark Pitternet gets injured at some point during pre-season, then I think that opens up the opportunity for Tom De Conning, because I don't think they would play two rucks if Pitternet didn't play. I think they would just go a bit smaller. I think who's that? It's Murkov, I think his name is, from Carlton, as that third ruck. I'm not sure what his status is, but I don't think he's fully ready yet. So, I think just keep an eye on Tom De Conning. He could be in that same bracket as Scott Lysett and Lloyd Meek, sort of around that range. That can be talked about a fair bit. What's your thoughts on De Conning, Brad?
I'm pretty uncertain about him. Like you said, though, if Pitman goes down, he's an absolute smoky. And also he is that sideways trade to Draper if Draper failed, or you wanted to buy set. So he's around the same price. It's more or less too is where's his second positioning? Is he a forward? I think he normally goes up forward a lot.
I think he's better. Yeah, he's better as a forward, I think, Brad.
Yeah. So, like, even if he went forward and he was still playing ruck and he gets DPP, he's probably relevant still there as well. His price is what I like. But yeah, I don't know too much about him to give a full honest opinion. It's more like this video is about preseason watch. Like if he scores back-to-back tons, everyone's probably going to drop him in there and be like, all right, let's start him. Why not? So
yeah,
not a bad shout at all, actually. I think my second to last pick is the man that's burnt everyone. And this is just typical Giants fashion, isn't it, really? No matter what coach they're going to have, I feel like they're always going to burn us for years to come. And it's Lachie Whitfield. You can already see on my tab. I didn't realise how old he was, actually, Steve. I had no idea he was ancient. Like he's
28 now. I remember him getting drafted yesterday. It's just mental.
Oh, you got a better memory than me then. I don't know what I've been doing. I must have been sleeping under a rock or just being obsessed with Richmond, especially in the 17, 19 and 20. I was going to say 18, but we weren't even there, mate. So I don't know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, but I mean, he's probably the one out of all these ones we're talking about has probably got the most proven scoring. I mean, you look from 2017 onwards when they got eliminated by us in the prelims and all the other finals. But he's gone 97, 99, 111, 104. But since 2019, he hasn't played a whole season. So, again, like, if he goes down back, and that's where I think he's actually best for SuperCoach anyway, he gets DPP, he's definitely relevant this season. So by round 6, he's a player I'll be looking at to see. Even round 1 or 2, if you see him start off in the back line and accumulating, you sort of know he's gonna be one of your first upgrade targets. But then if you wait until round 6 too, you can see if he actually cops niggles. Don't know if the new coach, Kingsley from Richmond, will actually tell us if these players are injured or not, because we know what Cameron did since he's been there, really. But yeah, I think he's really relevant this year. I didn't even realise he'd played that many games, to be honest, too. It's pretty crazy. But I think he's got the most scoring capability out of all these mid prices we're talking about. What do you think of Whitfield? And never again?
Yeah, he's firmly in the never pick again for me, Brad. He's burnt me. He burnt me 2021, 2022. So yeah, I can't recommend the pick, but I guess we'll have to track and see how he's going in preseason. Now my second to last player is Jack Lukosius from the Gold Coast Suns. He's a 360k forward, which is very interesting because the reason he moved back down forward for 2022 was because Ben King was injured for the season. He did his ACL, and now he had to train as a forward. So that meant now with Ben King back for 2023, you would assume that he's going to play off that half back line again, and as well, I think, yeah, he's just going to be used off that half back line because as I mentioned in yesterday's video, no Buderick, no Lockie Weller, and no who's the other bloke, Will Power. They'll both be out for at least the first half of the season. So there's some opportunity off that half back line for the Gold Coast Suns. Jack Lukosius could be used, Brendan Ellis, Ben Long, that sort of thing. So we're just going to have to see what the pecking order is for the Gold Coast Suns down back. What are your thoughts on Lukosius, mate?
I think he's a good price, and definitely I'd look at him at a halfback. I'm not sure midfield I'd look at or wing because wing's never been really relevant in SuperCoach. But definitely if he's a halfback, sort of like we were talking about that run and carry, I think I'd look at him. If he's up forward, I won't touch him, but I think he's at a really good price. And if he goes down back and he gets that forward and defence swing, I think that's a really great pick. So it would be a definite preseason watch. His scoring's been around the 80 mark over the last few seasons, so it'll be just whether or not he can sort of push his ceiling higher. And that's the problem with sending these players between 300 and 450 is what's their ceiling over the next, this season really coming up. So if they can increase that, then they become more appealing. And you only need them to make 150k to actually be worth the pick. I think we overthink it and we go, 360, they better be a keeper. But really, you just need to make 150k because that's what you make on a rookie anyway. So that's what I think of that one. Last player for me is Liam Baker. Footy-wise, a little bit irrelevant for this because Hardwick and Richmond aren't really SuperCoach relevant too much because we like to play players wherever they're required during the game. So if someone goes down, Baker will play anywhere. He'll play down back, forward if a forwards get injured, or he'll play mids if Prestia and Martin aren't playing. So for me, I don't think I've really heard too many preseason things about Tigers because we know we're going to win the premiership this year anyway. But to be honest, if he plays midfield, he's definitely a shout. Like if he plays in the guts, he could easily average 95, 100. And he's as a forward and defender. So I don't think he can actually go a third DPP. It'd be kind of crazy if he could. But I think at his price, if Dimmer said, all right, he's going to play in the midfield for the rest of the season, I'd definitely take it. I think he's only 24 years old as well, so he's still quite young, coming into his prime. By the way, we've got about 7 minutes left. Anyway. But
we got a bit of time. Don't worry, Brad.
It's right. So, yeah, I mean, you look at 2021 season, he averaged 82, and in the last season, 78. So he doesn't really get the numbers to back him up, but if he plays that midfield, he's definitely a player I'll be hyping up to everyone, especially as a Tigers man, and just even Jaden Short. If Jaden Short plays half-back flank like I think he will, I think he'll be a shout by round 6. Who's your last player, Steve?
Yeah, Baker's a good shout, mate, because he's just such a good player to watch. He's really courageous. He was the most courageous player last season. I'm pretty sure he was voted. So he's a really good player to watch. I really like him as a player. So my last player for me is Wayne Miller of the Adelaide Crows, 321k forward. There, I think I saw somewhere during preseason where he's going to be playing off the half back again. As we've mentioned, it's a role that we sort of look for in SuperCoach, that player that can get the pill off the half back, create the next kick for the forward 50. So I think Wayne Miller we've certainly seen him in the past deliver some pretty solid scoring. And I just think if Wayne Miller can lock down a half-back role, and he can certainly turn up as an option. We thought he was going to be an option. I think a few of us thought he was going to be an option this time last season, but clearly wasn't the case. I believe he was injured or something, or he's just a bit out of favour. So, Wayne Miller is my last player, mate.
Yeah, I think he's a good shout too. I think every season for the last 3 years, really, he's been the hype man, but then he gets injured just before round one or thereabouts. So he's scoring too. Like, he's got the scoring capability. And it's just his durability for me. I think he's definitely best 22 in the Crows. I think I could even play down back for the Crows or Annis in this case at 31 years old, to be honest. I'm just talking a lot of crap. But no, I think we'll just about leave it there, Steve. I think we've done the mid prices and some real smoky there's that, not many people have been talking about. So thanks again for joining, Steve. Anyone that hasn't subbed to these channels, SDS SuperCoach, I'm sure you already know him. So thanks again for your time.
No worries, Brad. Thank you very much for having me on. And subscribe to Brad. Make sure you keep subscribing to Brad. Let's get him up to 200 subs before February. Yeah,
let's see if they can. And make sure you obviously sub to SDS SuperCoach as well. So thanks again. We'll be doing videos coming up soon as well. So hopefully I can pause this at the right time and it's not lagging for an extra minute at the end. But peace out, guys. Next.
See you guys.
See ya.